Alright guys, so before we start today's video, I want to quickly say that I ended up losing some footage because my camera corrupted. I did have footage recorded of pretty much everything, install A to Z, but I lost some of it. So whatever footage I did have remaining, I'm going to just use in the video. And to make up for any lost footage, towards the end of the video, I'm going to make a quick, complete summary of the install from start to finish, how everything was done, so that way nothing gets missed. I did want to pull the e-brake off again completely and refilm everything. Unfortunately, drift season is in full effect and I'm not going to have time to do that. So I'm going to try to be very concise about everything and lay everything down so it's easy for you guys to understand. Okay, so I'm not going to do a complete unboxing in this video because I already did that on my Instagram. You guys can check that out if you want. However, just a couple highlights about the kit. Comes with a Wilwood master cylinder. I opted for the smallest size they offer, which is a 0.62. And now my favorite part, which is the hydro handle itself. Now there's a few options for this. They have a black one and this raw billet. The reason why I chose the billet one is because you're going to be able to grab onto it better out of your peripheral vision when you're drifting. The black one, in my opinion, would look better inside the car because it'll blend into everything. It'll kind of look stockish. However, if you do either color you go with, I think they make it to where you can swap the pistol handles out to any color you want. Or I think they have like a few options of colors, so you guys can do that too. I just kept it simple, just raw billet with a black handle. This will be good enough for me to grab out of my peripheral vision. Okay, so before we do actually anything on the car itself, we have to assemble this together. This is the main unit that's going to be tucked underneath the dash. Obviously it bolts up to the shifter hole, but I'm going to show you guys how to assemble this right now. So this will all go into the car as one unit. So what you're going to need for this right here is the master cylinder, the hydro handle itself, and this baggie that comes with all this stuff right here. What I will say is this is left and right hand drive compatible. So if you have a right hand drive car, it can sit in different positions right here, whether left or right, so it'll be closer to the steering wheel. Obviously this is a left hand drive car, so it's going to sit closer to the left hand side. First things first, open up this Wilwood master right here, and you're going to open up this bag. So we're going to stick the master in. It's going to come with we're going to have these facing up. You're going to use 12mm for these, and like I said, I am going to tighten mine down so much to where I'm not going to have an issue with they're going to loosen up. Not enough to strip it obviously, but okay. Then we're going to have this heim. That's going to go right over there. And actually, you should probably stick this on the master before you actually put it into the bracket itself. I'm going to screw this in as far as it'll go because we can always make adjustments once we actually have it bolted up into the car, and I'll show you guys how to do that later. Next up, we're actually going to drop the e-brake handle itself, and it's going to use this Allen key bolt. Now what I will say is this is softer material, so we can't necessarily tighten it down as much as we did. So because of that, we're going to dab just a little bit of Loctite right there, red Loctite. And then we're going to grab our Allen bolt. Oh, we'll go that way. And put it in there like that. And the Allen can actually just go right through the hole right there. I don't know if you guys can see. So I would put the Allen through the hole first, then drop the handle down on top of it, and then start screwing it in. And now we have this spacers plus the bolt. This is to actually mount the handle itself. So like I said, we mounted it closer to the left side because it's a left-hand drive car. And we're actually gonna place the spacers in the handle itself. So this little step side is gonna go in the bearing like that. And then same for the other side. The other side is just smaller. And we're gonna carefully slot it in between where it's gonna sit. And we're gonna stick the bolt in through the driver's side in case the bolt is a little bit longer, so that way it's not hitting the trim on this side inside the car. And then we can, you know what, since this is gonna be rotational, this is gonna be rotating, I'm gonna dab just a little bit of red Loctite on this, even though it should never come loose, but don't want to have to tear the dash down again to be able to do all this. And then we're going to tighten this down, give it a good amount of torque, but nothing crazy. I don't want to risk the possibility of it damaging the bearing, even though I don't think it will because the two-step lips are probably touching inside together, so it should be fine. Okay, now that you guys have this complete unit assembled, we have to bench bleed this master cylinder. I have done it in the past where I just left it in the car, but it definitely makes it easier if you just bench bleed this, get all the air out of here first. Okay, let me show you guys how to bench bleed this. You're gonna take these red caps off. And then you have two options you can do. What you can do is take your reservoir itself, run the lines up to it, and then hold the reservoir up as high as you can and then fill that up with fluid. I'm not gonna do that because I can be pretty precise about it. We're gonna drop the fluid just down into that small little opening, fill it up all the way to the top, and then we're gonna slowly pull the hydro handle itself. Okay, that's sucked the fluid down slightly, and we're gonna do this a few times until we see fluid coming out of this hole right here. And when you do that, make sure you guys give it full range of motion on the handle itself. And at no point you can let the fluid inside there run out. Okay, cool. So we got fluid coming out of here. We'll do it one last time just to get all the air out. It's gonna get a little messy, so have a towel ready. Cool, so now that's bench bled, and we're gonna just put these caps back on. Now we got a little bit of fluid in there, and I recommend to not mess with the handle itself anymore. If you have to, just wipe it up afterwards, and it's not a big deal because we are going to be bleeding it once the whole system is wired up. All right, so it's now a few days after you guys see me assemble the hydro handle itself. We are back working on the car after a long work week for me, but the car was completely dead, so I'm jumping it right now. But while that's charging up, real quick guys, you might have seen that I drink a lot of coffee in my little mom cup here. But if you guys want to buy me a cup of coffee, I put a link down in the description. You can go there, donate. YouTube doesn't pay me to do these videos yet, so everything on there helps a lot. Or if you don't want to do that, just leave a like on this video. It's completely free, it goes a long way to boost the video up in the algorithm, and it makes doing all this worth it. So with that being said, let's jump back into this thing. So I don't think there's like an actual order that you have to install these parts in, because it's a full kit, so you can just install whatever you want whenever you want. I'm gonna start off on my car with the rear end first, because that's gonna take up a big chunk of my time. Okay, so we got everything pulled off. Knuckle is just a bare face now, got it all cleaned up, and now we get to the fun part. So we got our dual caliper bracket. This is the right side, and then before we actually stick it on, we are gonna have to do just a little bit of grinding right here, just off the knuckle, just for some clearance. And then that's gonna stay on just like that right there. So you can see if you don't do the grinding, you're gonna be off a little bit, and if you try to force it over and bolt it down, you might actually snap something. So it looks like right about there. We're gonna just shave some down and then slap this thing on. Okay, so normally you would want to do this with an angle grinder wheel and not a cutoff wheel, but I can't find my grinder wheel, so I'm gonna just make it work with the cutoff wheel and just be very gentle with it and slowly file it down. So it looks like we got it to fit pretty nicely. All the holes line up. Let me show you guys. I filed out about that much. You don't have to file out that much. I just did it because I don't want to go back for seconds. Bracket is completely flat against the knuckle itself. And then now we can start bolting everything up. All right, so we got the vacuum plate, but before we stick the bracket on the car and everything, we have to make some adjustments or trimming to the actual plate itself. So what you're gonna do, you're gonna take this, slip it over the two studs that are still sticking out, and then you're gonna make markings like there and there. Get an angle grinder or cutoff wheel, cut it off there, and then just shave it all the way down. However, in my situation, what I'm going to do, because I completely want to get rid of this thing, you can see it's kind of broken, I'm going to actually hit these spot wells with the spot well drill bit, because I have one of those, and see if I can just take this thing out in one piece. All right, perfect. So you can hit that with a little bit of paint, or you could just toss it in like that if you don't care about rust. I'm in California, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna just toss it in like this. And now we have a clean plate. You still need to have this backing plate. You can't get rid of it completely because that's what's responsible for your stock e-brake. Now, if you're getting rid of your stock e-brake, you're still gonna need to have this plate because of this little thickness. They take it into account when they make the dual caliper bracket, so you need to have it. So you're gonna want to take your vacuum plate and then take your dual caliper bracket. You're gonna slip it on the back on these threads right here. You're gonna slip it like that. Once you have that on, you can actually just slip it in like that right there. These are the bolts right here. I dabbed just a little bit of red Loctite on all 4 of them. Stick that on from the back. Next up, we're gonna put our brake cable in. And then we're gonna stick our hub on. So you have to be careful about the hub because this is only a one-way fit. Even though it looks like the top holes and the bottom holes are the same, they're actually different. The bottom ones are supposed to be farther apart. So if you look carefully, you can kind of see that difference. So you're gonna wanna put that in there. Actually, let's stick a bolt in from the back first. Alright guys, so I got everything on, but I do have to call it for the day because it's getting kind of dark out and I don't want the video quality to get dumbed down. But a couple little notes because I'm going to continue to put this side together because I already showed you guys the main stuff. A couple little things. These little spacers right here are actually for the stock brakes. So what you're going to do is when you're getting ready to put the stock sides caliper on, it's going to go like that, and then these spacers are actually going to go in between it because the dual caliper bracket obviously spaces everything out. So don't forget to do that. And then also, you might have to adjust your stock e-brake adjuster all the way in and then adjust it once the rotor is on because of this spacer right here, because of the dual caliper bracket, it's actually going to be pulling the cable for the e-brake even more, which is going to cause it to basically expand. So you have to tighten the adjuster all the way in before you put the rotor on, and then once the rotor is in, you're going to adjust it through the little hole that they give you, which is right there. So there's videos on YouTube how to do that, but basically it's pretty simple. Put the rotor on all the way, put a nut on, and then just tighten it to where it just makes contact, and then just back it off like 1 or 2 notches. Forgot the axle spacer. So what you guys are gonna do with this is it's gonna go on here like that, slip on that, and then that's gonna just slot in, and then you're gonna just torque it up like normal. Pretty easy to do. So I'm gonna put everything back together, and then we'll move on to the lines the next time I get a chance to film, because after this film session I have to go to work. So I'm gonna be working for a few days. I'll come back. So that's why I ask you guys to like these videos, because it takes a lot of time and effort for me to produce. So like the video. Okay, let's go ahead and run the Reservoir line, and that line is basically gonna just run through inside the car. It's gonna come out through there, and what you're gonna want to do is put a hole right there, and then that's gonna give us access to the brake compartment in the engine bay, so we can bolt the reservoir down. Or unless if you want, you can mount the reservoir somewhere in your car if you don't mind it having inside of your car and you know, be sticking out somewhere. Okay, so I have that hole slightly drilled out. You can see how bright it is because I don't have my flashlight on it, but I have it drilled out and I have my flashlight pointed because I want to see where that light pokes through on the other side to understand where it's going to be coming out from. So let's see, and you can see it right there. So it looks like it's going to be right below the master, which it's pretty ideal, so we can fish it out through right there. So I don't want to make the hole too big. We're going to only make it big to where the fitting of the line can actually fit through. So we have our hole drilled out. Now we're going to take the end of the line that says to reservoir and just push it through. We're going pretty far, and that way we can pull it out easily on that side. Fish that through. And then what I'm going to do on this side is probably just, where's that line at? Here it is. So we'll probably like zip tie this to something on this side or whatever so it doesn't slip back down. But we'll leave that hanging for now. Now we are going to be routing this right here. I'm not going to film this part. I'll show you guys the routing that I take, and then I'll film it afterwards once I have everything buttoned down, because I'm going to need 2 hands for this. All right, so line is coming out of that hole, then it makes its way over the shift column in front of the gas pedal harness, so we don't tug that or anything, and then it just goes into behind this air box thing. You can just fold the carpet out, tuck it in there, and it comes out right here. Very easy, very nice. I'm gonna leave a lot of slack on that for now until we bolt everything up. And now we are gonna move on to doing the actual caliper lines itself. So if you decide to run the kit underneath the car, here's a very important thing you guys have to keep in mind. There's an exhaust right here, and there's rotating assemblies right here. So if you guys are gonna do this, make sure you route your cable in a way to keep them as far away from the exhaust as possible. Keep them away from the drive shaft, because people have, believe it or not, they've boiled the fluid in the lines itself, and they've actually wrapped it around the drive shaft and stuff like that. So use a lot of P-clamps, a lot of zip ties, or whatever you have to do. Keep it away from the rotating assembly and the exhaust. What I recommend is once you actually drop it down through the hole itself up there, just use zip ties or some kind of metal zip ties preferably, and wrap it up to the e-brake, the stock e-brake cable itself. However, it is still going to be close to the exhaust, so you guys might want to consider heat shielding this part of the exhaust or heat shielding the line itself. So just keep that in mind if you guys want to run your e-brake lines underneath the car. These brake lines are actually long enough to where you have the option to run it through the car or under the car. Now, I am a little undecided on what I want to do, so what I'm going to do is actually just pull the back seats out of my car, see what it's like in there, because I'm going to have to pull these back seats off anyway because I'm getting ready to compete, so I need to take some weight out of this car. I'll pull the back seats out, and then I'll see what we can do to get it routed through the car. But anyways, to get the back seats out, you're going to pull these black tabs, and then basically this is going to just lift and pull out. Okay, so I got the hole drilled out. I want to say that's maybe like about 3/4 of an inch almost. Now we're going to take our line, we're going to spread a little bit of WD-40 on this, and then fish this side out to the brake caliper. Or actually, this side is for the brake caliper. That was a bit of a struggle. I got the grommet in. It was a struggle because my stepper drill bit does not go up to that size, so I really kind of had to force it in. But if you're going to do this, make sure you get the right size stepper drill bit. Should be no problem. You can see it's grommeted in there. Again, I did damage the grommet, but that's kind of like the point of a grommet, is to take the damage instead of the line. We are plumbed in the rear, at least out to the calipers. Grommeted, everything ready to go. Now we just got to fit the T-fitting in. But before we do that, you guys might have noticed that there's only one caliper when we clearly have a dual caliper bracket installed. It's right there. That's the dual caliper. Now, this is only a specific problem to my car. Well, it's not really a problem. I'm doing some experimentation. So at the moment, I'm going to be running a suicide setup in my car, meaning e-brake is only going to the rear wheels. There's no foot brake at all going to the rear wheels. The foot brake is all going to the front wheels. What I'm currently doing is I'm experimenting with mounting 350Z calipers as the foot brake. But in order to do that, I have to build some custom brackets, stuff like that. So I don't want to do that in this video. That's going to take too much time. So this has nothing to do with the hydro itself. You guys are going to install the hydro as I just install it, pretty much exactly the same. Again, this is just a specific issue to my car. This is not going to affect you guys. So everything you guys are watching so far, just do it the same way that I'm doing. But one thing I forgot to mention is before you guys install this line right here, make sure to use these little brass washers on both sides of the caliper. You have to use those, otherwise it's going to leak. And then what I recommend, guys, is leave this side completely loose. Don't tighten this side yet. Well, you kind of have to use this. You have no choice. You have to stick the caliper line on first because this side is fixed. That side has a swivel on it, so you guys can put that on later. So caliper side first, then we can put the T on, and let me show you guys how we put the T on. It's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, T-fitting, here we go. This is pretty simple to install. Only thing you got to watch out for is make sure you can see that this mounting bracket is off to one side. So make sure this is facing to wherever you're going to mount it, not facing forward. Otherwise, it's going to be mounted all crooked like that instead of straight. So very, very simple, self-explanatory. Take the one side, screw it on, and there's no washers or anything required for these because these are flared. So one side, other side, you guys get the idea. Very simple, nothing hard about it. and tighten these. You do not have to put a lot of torque on these guys because these are actually, they're called bubble fitting. They have a very good seal. They don't require a lot of torque. Just make sure they're snug. And then this side is going to plug to the line that's going to go through the middle of the car out to the front on the hydro. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that right now. So sun's starting to go down. Looks pretty amazing, but that means we got to wrap this up fast because I don't have a lot of filming time left. But so the hardest part about getting this line right here, the main line coming back from the hydro through, is going to be running it through the carpet. So pretty simple solution. Stick a pry bar in through there. That gives you kind of like a tunnel. Then you can just put the line through and route it pretty much however you like. Just make sure it's not rubbing against like any sharp metal or anything like that. Use the P clamps they're provided, or just zip tie it, but make sure this banjo fitting is going to the front and you don't mistakenly put this towards the rear. Now this is going to fit onto the T fitting, and then I'm not actually going to bolt my T fitting down yet. I don't want to finalize it yet because I might be making some changes to the back of this car. I might be cutting some back stuff out. But what you guys can do is drill like a small hole right there or wherever, and then just pretty much put a bolt through it, and there you go. That's how it's mounted up. Very simple, very easy to do. All the excess line, what you guys can do is either loop it or pull it through here and route it somewhere nicely through here. And just make sure, check for suspension travel, make sure the line's not rubbing against anything, and make sure the line is not kinked and it's not getting tugged on when the wheel's moving up and down, because these lines will be moving up and down pretty much with every single suspension movement because it's going to the caliper obviously. So take some time. Once you guys get everything finalized, you might have to reroute this, which I'm probably gonna have to do anyways. This is just temporary. But yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap this part up. I'm gonna put the car back together. If I miss something, I'm gonna put it towards the end of the video, but I don't think I missed everything. I covered everything as best as I could. Now I'm gonna put the car back together because the sun is going down. I wanna get this thing bled today and maybe even test it out today, but we'll see. So as I said at the beginning of the video, I did lose some footage. So in this section, I'm gonna quickly run down the entire thing front to back. So in case something got missed, you guys can see it here. And if you have any questions on anything specific, leave it down in the comments below and I'll respond to it right away. I do want to say it is not complete yet. I just put it together enough to where I can get the car out to a drift event because I was on a time crunch. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna make another separate video filming how everything is once it's all finished and nice, and me actually using it in drift because I've already tried it. Works amazing. So just to finish this video out, we're gonna do a complete breakdown. We're gonna start off in the front of the car with the reservoir. So you guys can see I have the reservoir just rib nutted. So drilled a hole there, put a rib nut in. These are actually amazing little things. Only mistake that I made on mine is I mounted it up too high to where it actually makes contact with this. So on my car, I'm gonna just trim it to accommodate for this. But if I were you guys, I would just mount this maybe an inch lower, like right over there. That should take care of that. If you don't want to do rib nuts, you just drill a hole, simple nut and bolts. And then obviously the line goes down and it goes underneath the brake booster. And let me show you guys where it comes out underneath the car. It comes out right over here. So it comes out right there, then it goes over my steering shaft and then basically drops into this, tucks in here, goes into the e-brake. Now let's move on to the e-brake. So I had a complete 20-minute segment dedicated to the hydro install itself, where I went step by step into everything. I tore all this down. Unfortunately, that's one of the footage that got corrupted, so I can't use that anymore. Luckily, Henkō Auto Lab on their YouTube channel, they have a dedicated video on this assembly itself. They show you how to completely tear the dash down and everything like that and install it, very step-by-step detail. Only thing I will say is the fitting or the line that's coming from the reservoir, you know, through the firewall to the hydro, that has a 90-degree fitting on it like this. So make sure that's not facing towards the front of the car. Angle that to where it's facing left, otherwise you will hit the HVAC box, like the AC box, and it's very easy to break that, so do not do that. And then also in their video, they include on how to do the install of the delete plate that bolts onto the shifter bezel, which I haven't installed in my car yet because again, I just needed to wrap this thing up to be able to make a drift event. So that's why it's a total mess like this. So I'm going to finish that up later and show you guys in the next video of when I actually use the hydro in drift. So shout out to Henkō for making such a complete e-brake kit. Everything bolted up nicely. I had no issues with it at all. And I've even done 2 drift events with it, and it works amazing. I've been able to tandem closer with my boys because I can make really quick fine adjustments with the e-brake. So in the next video, I'm going to be showing you guys the e-brake actually in action, and we're going to be upgrading the rear brake pads to EBC yellow pads to get a little bit more biting force. And I might even show you guys what I'm doing with the foot brake too to get a little bit more front bias side of the car.
Right there with you. Whoa. There you go. Right there. You're coming in with